Started. Um, all right. Welcome everybody to the Farm Alliance of Baltimore's presentation on our training program that we just launched this year. The title of our workshop is Building a Pipeline, and we are freshly in the work of creating new farmers in Baltimore City. My name is Denzel Mitchell. I am the Deputy Director of the Farm Alliance of Baltimore, and working under the leadership and tutelage of Maria Strauss, Executive Director of the Farm Alliance of Baltimore. I've been in this role now for just about coming up on 2 years. I was a founding farm member of the Farm Alliance some 10 years ago, served as advisor and then member of the board, and then stepped down from the board to take on the task of deputy director in February of 2020, and then the world changed. So Maria and I have been working feverishly and very well together over the last few months through the pandemic, and helping our network of 16 farms to survive this period. So I want to introduce Maria Strauss, who is looking so fresh and so clean, just coming back from vacation while we were weathering this cold weather. Maria, you want to say a couple of things?
Sure. Welcome everyone. It's so good to be back in the warm embrace of our NISOG brothers and sisters. Thank you for being here with us today. Some of you may have attended some of our presentations in past years at the conference. Boy, do I miss being back in person with you all. And I just am so happy to see folks here with us today. Even if there's only 8 of us for this little time that we have together, I'm excited to be with you. And so yes, from my living room here in Baltimore City, I am in year 5, starting my 5th year as executive director of the Farm Alliance of Baltimore. And Denzel, do you want me to just go ahead and dive right in to a little bit of the backstory of the Farm Alliance and the feasibility study?
In a second, since it's such a small group, I'm kind of interested to know who's in the virtual room with us, and maybe just very quickly why you joined us, if you know us beforehand, or maybe what you're looking to get from the session. We can start with Greta.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Greta Hassler. I'm actually from Baltimore and my whole family lives there, but I'm currently working at an organization in Vermont called Salvation Farms. And our mission is to build resilience in the food system through managing on-farm surplus, so primarily produce. And we move that into the charitable food system primarily, but we've also piloted workforce development programs in correctional facilities and with folks who are previously incarcerated to build skills in the food system and long-term employment in the food system. So that's some of the work that we've done in the past. And it's all in relation to managing surplus. So the work that we've done in a workforce development capacity is processing surplus and helping broker it to paying markets to create additional markets for farmers. So that's some of the work that we do, and I'm excited to learn more about your organization. And yeah, I joined because I'm passionate about Baltimore, and it seems like you guys are doing amazing work.
Nice, thank you. Ms. Goldman.
Hi, I'm Ruth Goodman. I'm the program officer at the Merck Family Fund for our urban farming and advocacy work. And we do not fund in Baltimore. I always have to, but I have to say I went to the NESOG conference in Baltimore a few years ago, and I thought it was basically the best NESOG conference ever. And I just got so excited about all that's happening in Baltimore. And so whenever I go to these conferences, I basically go to all the Baltimore sessions. So and also I'm really, really excited about pipeline work around with Black farmers. And we're actually supporting Onika's work in New York City. And I just feel like there's so much energy around the pipeline work, from really just getting folks back on the land and then finding permanent and secure land and supporting with skills and ultimately capital. And I just am trying to like hear what's going on all over the place. So I'm just looking forward to hearing about your work. And I think Baltimore's amazing. So thank you.
Baltimore's pretty good. All right. Hey, all right, Nina.
Hi, y'all. I'm Nina McClown. I work with the Farmers Market Coalition as the Resource Libraries Coordinator. So my professional work is in the world of food access, but my kind of extracurricular activities are largely around urban farming, and always, that's a big part of my life. I worked in urban farming in Washington, D.C. for many, many years, until just a few months ago, we moved up to Baltimore. And since arriving here, I've been blown away by what I did not really know before coming here. It was such a rich and like really just a really cool and complex and rich system of farmers and producers and people making the connections and making it happen here. So I'm really excited to learn more and to meet you all, and wanting to connect with other people who are interested in food and community food coalition in Baltimore.
Great, thank you. Ms. Hickey?
Hello, hi. I'm Shannon. I use she, her pronouns. I am from Harford County. I moved up to Rhode Island, where I currently am, for college, and I've stayed here for a couple extra years as well. And the organization that I work with is Hope's Harvest Rhode Island. And we work with purchasing surplus from farmers, or going out and gleaning that extra surplus at the farms and then donating it and distributing it to food pantries and the food bank in the state. And it's great to, yes, go gleaning. It's great to see the production of this organization through Rhode Island. And that's kind of sparked me to think about, obviously Rhode Island's a small state, so it's super easy to be able to do a statewide program like this. And brings me back to my roots in Maryland, just thinking about that, how it could be, put forth there. So yeah, just wanted to learn more about what you guys are doing in Baltimore. So yeah, awesome. Excited to be here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Caitlin?
Hi, I'm Caitlin Miziazik, and I work at the Johns Hopkins Center for Livable Future. So we're in Baltimore. We're an academic research center in the School of Public Health, looking at the connection of food systems, public health, environmental health. A number of my colleagues work on urban ag and have, I think, worked with the Farm Alliance on a number of projects. And I'm just really excited to hear kind of where you guys are at and new projects that you're working on. Yeah, excited to be here.
Thanks a lot. Amy, if you don't mind sharing just real quick why you joined us and what you hope to gain from this conversation.
All right, my name is Amy. I'm a student studying sustainable urban agriculture right now. I actually live in Illinois, but I found out about this conference through a Chicago-based program. I am just interested in more of community-focused farm work, and they don't really focus on that in my program. So I thought it'd be fun to learn about that here. So I don't really know that much, but I'm excited to learn.
Awesome. Awesome. Yes, Mario, she definitely has the best background. She moved to Baltimore. Okay, Mario, you can take it away. Uh-oh, what happened?
I'm here. It's fine. I heard you.
Oh, okay.
Thank you. Yeah, well, let's dive in. So you all are here to hear about our program for growing new farmers. And the way this was germinated as an idea was in 2018. So just to back up for a moment, the Farm Alliance of Baltimore is a grassroots member organization that was composed of a handful of farmers, urban farmers, who got together in 2011, that making this our 10-year anniversary year, to begin to market their products together instead of in competition with one another, and in solidarity instead of competition, to purchase, do group purchasing of some of the tools and other overhead costs for running their farms, so that those burdens could be shared instead of replicated across every farm. And the spirit of that spirit of cooperative economics and mutual aid has been the through line for this organization since the very beginning, and continues to this day, even though the organization has grown to over 25 members. We have three membership tiers now. Of some folks are considered farms, some are considered community gardens, and then we have an individual membership as well for the Farm Alliance. I've been here for, as I said, over 4 years now, and we are just putting pedal to the metal with writing grants, soliciting individual donations, charging membership dues, funding this work in whatever way we can, flying the plane as we build it, as Denzel likes to say. So we provide many services to our members, but the primary one we provide that I'm going to be talking about today is convening. We play a convening role to provide, and we're very intentional about trying to provide a home for all urban agriculture practitioners in the city of Baltimore. And so we're intentional about that because that was the intent of the founders. And I think Denzel can sort of concur with that, or back me up on that, because I think that that is what we lift up and honor the unique flavor that each farm brings to the table. We do not try to take over the farms, tell them how to run their businesses, or otherwise violate their sovereignty and their independence. We are more of a United Nations kind of situation. So we provide monthly meetings, and then we also do, workshops, hands-on field days if folks feel like they want to learn a skill, crop mobs or harvesting group sessions if folks feel like they need help on their farm and everybody else wants to show up for them. There's a lot of that goes on in the Farm Alliance. So that is the backdrop to, in 2018, the staff and members of the Farm Alliance came together and wrote the strategic plan. So the strategic planning process happened over a period of almost a year. I want to say 10 months maybe. And in that process, we identified as a top priority for the organization in the next 3 to 5 years was to be able to grow some new farmers, get some new talent of folks working in the soil in the city, and be able to train them. This is because those of you familiar with the region may know that there are actually farmer training programs in existence throughout the Delmarva area or the Chesapeake Bay region. And throughout the mid-Atlantic, but none of them targeted Baltimore City. We had sort of little bits and pieces of work, training work going on in Baltimore City, but there was nothing that was comprehensive. And so the farmers identified that, if we didn't grow some new farmers, that very soon we would cease to have urban farms operating in the city. And so that, combined with the idea of getting folks more tenure on their land, which is something I would love for us to talk about, but I'm not sure we'll have time to talk about it today. It's probably something you need to go to the Black Yield Institute session on tomorrow, which is the idea of land sovereignty. So the idea of growing new farmers fell to us as staff. And when Denzel came on board as deputy director of the Farm Alliance, that was the first opportunity that we had to begin to consider how we might build such a program. I was busy before he came on board trying to design the concept for, or at least begin to lay the groundwork for building such a program. And so what I was able to do was to get a grant from the Kaiser Permanente Community Foundation to write a feasibility study that looked at how and what assets are available in the city throughout the city and the region to underpin a real comprehensive farmer training program. And the key part of that feasibility study was a series of 40 listening sessions that we had, that our author, the writer of the feasibility study, was able to have with community residents in Baltimore City to ask them what they would want and need out of such a program. And then he also conducted 17 interviews with farmers to find out what they would want and need out of such a program should they be asked to teach. And so it was the first time, I think, that this had ever been done to kind of like, I mean, it was just sort of felt like common sense that if you want to know how to build a program that will serve a particular community, you should just ask that community what they want. But apparently this is not always done. So we are really pleased to have the feasibility study that was completed in 2019 and the beginning of 2020, just as Denzel was coming on board as the deputy director of the Farm Alliance. So then,
oh, go ahead.
No, so once the feasibility study was out in the world, and that's something that I can link you to in the chat as soon as I'm done talking. Once the feasibility study was out in the world, we just were basically shopping the concept around to funders. And all of a sudden, when was that? Sometime in early 2020.
No, it was late. It was
Later in 2020. Yeah, you're right.
Late 2019, because we wait a minute. No, it was late 2020. You're right, late 2020.
Yeah, Denzel had a brainwave and was like, why don't we just ask Sarah? Do you want to take it from there?
Yeah, I was looking for the feasibility study, but you'll probably find it before I will. Yes. Okay. Yeah, that's right. That's how this went. So we're just gonna do like a stream of consciousness, because this is how Mari and I work. So welcome to our world. Yes, I just remember it was about this time of year, and we sat down to multiple conversations just as it was getting chilly, in front of laptops and cups of coffee to try to bang out this this application for a SARE grant. And very interestingly enough, the previous year, when the contractor went around to do the interviews that Maria had just mentioned, I was actually a farm manager at one of the member farms. So just really interesting to be able to like share from that perspective. And then fast forward a year later, you know, I'm on staff. I also would be remiss to not mention that also during this time, the staff at the Farm Alliance has doubled, thanks to the work that we've been doing. So going from 2 to 4, and a pretty awesome intern. So anyway, yeah, so we sat down and kind of were working in three paths at the same time. One was getting the proposal submitted to Sarah, so writing that and really kind of visualizing the entire program. But then one of the core elements of our program was going to be having a teaching / demonstration / incubator farm in the city that would have provided a location and space for trainees to be able to get hands-on in the work. And then kind of a third pathway was finding some additional funding to support what the farm was going to represent for our program and also for the organization, because it also would be the first time that the Farm Alliance would have its own farm. You know, as Maria mentioned, over this past decade, the Farm Alliance has been the support organization for farms that operated in different business models throughout the network. This would have been the first time that the organization itself had its own farm that we wanted to make central to the program. And so yeah, so just as I came on, we kind of spent the first 8 months really kind of fleshing it out, and then late 2020 we received word from SARE that we've been approved for our training program, and for funded for 2 years to the tune of a quarter $250,000, which is still very difficult to say. March 2021. Thank you. March, mind you, March 2021. Yeah. So really got busy to the work of recruiting, creating curriculum. At the same time, we were securing land tenure and control for this farm that didn't exist yet, but then also, you know, kind of figuring out what the rest of the program is going to look like. And so by May of 2021, we had recruited our 10 trainees, and we're starting our classwork in June. Right, 43. Thank you. 43 applications for 10 spots, and so it was huge confirmation that the work that we were embarking on was highly needed. That there was a massive demand, and we were going to be providing a service that folks were really interested in. And so the model that we were employing was kind of an amalgamation of two things. I am a graduate of Future Harvest Beginning Farmer Training Program. I actually graduated in the second class, and it was a quite pivotal program for myself. It got me on my farming journey. And so we used some elements of that, but then also some elements of some of the teaching farms, or some of the programs, some of the more residential style programs where people are actually able to spend a great amount of time working shoulder to shoulder with their farms. But obviously, you know, in an urban setting, you know, that's not really an experience that we can provide just yet. You know, as you know, the farms are very small, what we like to call human scale. So our approach to that was creating a mentoring opportunity where the trainees could spend 144 hours working shoulder to shoulder with the farm manager or the farmer, owner, operator, depending on the business model. So the four components were the classroom instruction was 13 weeks of 2-hour instruction in a classroom space. Going through a curriculum, we actually used a lot of elements of the University of Santa Cruz Farmer Education Institute curriculum, and then we kind of centered around 4 core texts. The first one and probably the most impactful, according to the trainees, is Liam Penniman's book, Farming While Black, The Market Gardener by 40A, Richard Wiswall's The Organic Farmer's Business Handbook, and the fourth one is escaping me right now, but I'll think of it in just a minute. Let's just keep that. So we ran through those texts, and 13 weeks of class, which in itself was kind of a challenge in the midst of the pandemic. Most of the classes were via Zoom. As the vaccine was rolled out, and we were able to have some classes in person, which, we just kind of rolled with the punches. And
Denzel, sorry to interrupt. I'm going to share my screen for some photos.
oh, thanks. And then so that was the first aspect. The second aspect was creating a series of field days, which were essentially field trips. So these 10 trainees had varying levels of experience in urban agriculture, or agriculture in general, from zero to some of them being employed as farm workers on some farms in the city. And so we wanted to kind of provide this all-encompassing experience where you can kind of see farms at different scales, see farms, different styles of production, and then very personally and specifically get to meet with some established farmers who are actually doing the work in their farm. So we ended up having, we wanted originally to have 6 field days. We actually ended up having 8, and they ranged from community composting to beekeeping to flower farming, scaling up from being an urban farmer to kind of this peri-urban, rural. It's about 12 acres. The trainees went and looked at a well-established urban farm in Washington, D.C. Shout out to Gail Taylor at 3 Part Harmony. We did an intensive irrigation workshop at one of the farms in the network, and then we had a crop planting workshop that kind of piggybacked on some of the work that we had done in the classroom. So the field days were wildly popular. We kind of opened the field days up to the rest of the membership and even to rest of the folks in the network, in the wider network. And so we had some overlap, and it was just a great opportunity to network and folks to convene and really just kind of meet more farmers who are doing, what you're doing. And so those series of field days spanned from June until October, and in some ways, the garlic planting that's being shown in the picture now was also kind of a field day. So I'll circle back to that in just a moment. The third aspect was a mentoring aspect, where each of the 10 trainees were to be paired with 5 of our more experienced elder statesmen and stateswomen farmers in our network, and really kind of pass that knowledge along and really deepen the network here of urban agriculture in the city. And then as I mentioned, the fourth was the trainees working on and building the Farm Alliance's farm down at West Bay. And so while all of that was happening, we're also in negotiation with Baltimore City, the Rec and Parks, and Baltimore City's Office of Sustainability within the Department of Planning, which kind of does the work around the policy work around urban agriculture in the city. And they introduced us to a piece of property down in South Baltimore. That's a whole story unto itself, but another piece of property down in South Baltimore City in parkland, on parkland, 6.7 acres in Faring Bay Brook Park, which we agreed to steward. And so during this time, we're also building a farm in the city. So yeah, 6.7 acres. We're gonna have two major plots. Our greenhouse operation will eventually move there, some high tunnel operation, but all of this is happening in concurrence with the program. So I should back up. I failed to mention that the name of the program is the Black Butterfly Urban Farm Academy. The Black Butterfly is a head nod and homage and a lifting up of the work of Dr. Lawrence Brown, who's a sociologist who was formerly doing some work on redlining and gentrification and institutional racism here in Baltimore City, and developed the concept of the Black Butterfly and the white L. To that point, he created the term the Black Butterfly and published a book with the same title. And so we wanted to lift up his work and it being very powerful. And so I reached out to Dr. Brown, asked him permission if we could kind of bite his term a little bit and name the program after that. And he's at the University of Minnesota now, I think, but he agreed. So that's the Black Butterfly Urban Farmer Academy, affectionately called Babufa. Yeah. So 10 trainees from our recruiting criteria. We wanted to recruit mostly from within Baltimore City, folks that lived in the east and west wings of the city, which are often, those sections of the city are oftentimes forgotten, and oftentimes don't get an opportunity to participate in some of these very powerful and constructive movements that are happening in the city. So we really kind of focused on recruiting folks that either lived or worked in those areas. Let's see. So we got 10 trainees out of 43 applicants, and worked through the 13 weeks of classes, and moved into working on the farm. And so because the farm, so one element of the program, and really one element of the funding that we received from SARE, was to produce culturally relevant or quote unquote ethnic crops for the Baltimore City market, or the Baltimore City food shed, which as we know is majority Black. We wanted to produce food that folks would really kind of latch on to, but at the same time kind of keep their production very simple, because there's a lot to manage. So we settled on the historic and famed fish pepper, among a few other crops. But because our farm wasn't established yet, we didn't really have all the space. We didn't have all the space that we needed to be able to do our full production model. So we kind of scaled that back. Worked with one of our member farms who had some extra space. Real Food Farm had some extra space in their Perlman site, which they allowed us to use to produce about 700 fish pepper plants that we kind of use as the basis for the trainees to kind of see the entire process of production from seed to harvest. And so this was in simultaneous to us building a farm down in South Baltimore, and at the same time working with the community and kind of bringing in the neighborhoods and residents who were kind of giving us the side eye about us solarizing this pristine section of the park. So it was a lot. It was a lot. I've learned in immense amount. So in that process, we hired a production assistant to kind of help with the farming aspect, and at the same time did some fundraising to bring in some funds for the production, smaller scale production at Perlman Place on the peppers, and at the same time develop this much larger site that we intend to eventually call our farm home, as things progress. And then at the same time, kind of plugging trainees into the network and connecting them directly with some of our more talented and experienced farmers in a mentor-mentee relationship. And so Maisha Taylor is a farm manager at Cherry Hill Urban Community Garden, took on 2 of our trainees, and then our elder farmers, Warren and Livette Blue of the Greener Garden, also took on a couple of trainees, and then we had Baltimore Community Compost Collective, Marvin Hagler, kind of work with some of the trainees that really wanted to work on soil building and carbon sequestration and composting, and so it was really a community effort, so that's kind of the process. And so this was our inaugural year. So our first year. We are just now finishing up. We kind of culminated the year with a large community garlic planting just last Friday on the West Bay site. So we'll be planting about 40 pounds of garlic there, and I think we put in about 1,000 leeks. And then the trainees will graduate from the first cohort of the Black Butterflies on November the 15th. And as a parting gift, one of the things that we wrote into the program was to provide them with an urban farmer starters kit, which included a nice, good quality hoodie embossed with the Black Butterfly image and the Farm Alliance, a scuffle hoe, a embossed pocket knife, really nice pocket knife, and raincoat, real nice raincoat. I also need to mention that as a part of the participation in the program, we also pay the trainees a very, very small stipend for their participation, and really for the time and travel that they spent at the field days and working on the farms. Okay, I'll shut up here so that we can ask questions, because I'm skipping some stuff.
Okay, Zell, I can read you the questions so you don't have to read them and consider them at the same time.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
All right, cool. So yeah, we wanted to make sure that the trainees got paid and the mentors got paid. And so we're paying the mentors for hosting, but we also paid the trainees for their time, and I think that was really, really awesome. All right, I'm ready for questions.
Thank you. Okay, so our questions start with, from Ruth, what are the criteria you are looking for in applicants?
It's a great question, Ruth. Yeah, so the criteria that we wanted was, I think for me personally, we wanted eagerness. we wanted folks that either lived or worked in those far eastern, far western corridors of Baltimore City. Again, we wanted to provide that opportunity to folks that don't really get that opportunity. And Maria kind of mentioned that there's a lot of training programs, farmer training programs that kind of exist in this region, but none of them really kind of address the needs of folks in Baltimore City, nor take into account the challenge or the difficulty it might be for somebody to go from Baltimore City to Harford County, or to the Hereford Zone in Baltimore County, or down to PG County. So, we know that we're all farming right here in the city, and that there's tons of opportunities to introduce sustainable farming methods to folks here in the city. So, we wanted to make it accessible, that you could leave out your front door and get to a farm pretty easily. We didn't ask for folks to necessarily have experience. They were rated a little higher if they did in fact have some experience, and there were a few trainees that were either farm workers or in our member farms, or they had some experience working on other farms before that. So that was pretty much our criteria.
Okay. Next question. Would love to hear, this one's from Nina, would love to hear more about community reactions to the farm building and how you have worked with them.
Oh boy. That's a long answer, Nina, but I will quickly say that we had mixed reactions to the idea of building a farm in long untouched parkland. Maria and I both spent a considerable amount of time in the community organization meetings, neighborhood association meetings, the Friends of the Park meetings, and really just wanted to be, resource, resource and really a good neighbor. So we flyered in the neighborhood. We passed out flyers. I put
this was all before breaking ground. This was all
before breaking ground. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, I put my personal phone number on flyers that we put on people's mailboxes and doorsteps. And we put some signs up before we broke ground. I went to both of the schools for back to school night. We passed out flyers. It just kind of had conversations with folks. And I think that one of the most memorable, it was a little bit of a challenge, Nita, but we could talk about that later. But I will say that one of the most memorable sessions during our classroom work was, I just really kind of laid out in a very honest way the challenges and frustrations of putting a new farm in a neighborhood, and what the response was from the neighbors, and really kind of put it on the trainees to kind of give me some feedback about how we should handle it. And that was a really powerful classroom. For me, it ranks really high on the work that we did, which I think that a lot of times you don't think about being a part of the work of farming within a city context. Not everybody wants a farm. Most people don't want a farm if they don't know what it means in their neighborhood. And so I kind of knew that going in, but I was just like a little too close to the fire. And so when we were there in it, I was like, oh, y'all, you don't really want the farm? Okay, well, how can we work together? So, we made some concessions, and we made some promises, and we got some great friends. And so during the garlic planting, I'm happy to report that everybody that came by was super excited, and and felt pretty successful about the work that we've done thus far.
Okay. I'm going to jump in for a second on this one, Denzel, because I feel that you are underselling it slightly. In other words, I feel that you are kind of understating the amount of effort that we had to put in order to work with the community and establish relationships. Those relationships are gold. This cannot happen without them. Do not attempt to start a teaching farm or a demonstration farm if you are not prepared to spend 8 months of groundwork time before breaking ground on your farm. And that's a minimum. I feel like we could have used another year, quite frankly. But we didn't have that. So we got the money, and the money was burning a hole in our pockets to start working.
Clarify our mind. I was ready to go.
Yes. And members of the community are not intractable. Okay. Folks can and will talk to you about what it is that they need and they want. And it is simply a matter of, tiptoeing and walking towards one another and finding those areas where we both have interests in common. So it is really important, first and foremost, that, you not assume the motivations of community members and residents, and just listen with open heart and mind to what they have to say. Denzel was amazing in this regard. Both of us worked together on this. We also had a board member, our board chair, who stepped up and came out to physical meetings with neighbors on the property where we were visioning the farm. And that was really important. Folks were pretty warm and receptive when we did that. I think the responses simply had a range. So it was really important that we actually took in and did what we said we were going to do for community residents. So we took in the feedback that they wanted some signs that were translated into Spanish.
Yes.
So we produced lawn signs in English and Spanish, one side English, flip side Spanish. And those are the lawn signs that announce what the farm is to everybody.
And they're spread all the way,
Yeah.
the whole length of the farm.
Yeah. Yeah. We received a piece of feedback from some neighbors directly adjacent to the farm that they were concerned about the invasives and undergrowth under some of the trees were becoming hotspots for criminal activity and endangering themselves and putting their kids at risk. So we spent $6,100 of our own grant money, not the SARE grant, but private philanthropy money, to clear those dead trees and invasives. And that was a home run, absolute home run, because it was something folks wanted and could not get the city to do. So we'll never see that money again, but we have the golden ticket, which is that members of the community are forever grateful for that. So there are just things that
one more clutch of trees to get rid of, but yeah, that was huge. I forgot about that.
Yeah. So anyway, it's a longer story than that, but those are some really important steps. Denzel, I have a little news, which is that Aria has joined the chat. Aria
I
is
see. So excited. I just privately chatted her. This is one of our stars of our little situation here. So we'll give her an opportunity to talk.
Great. Okay, a couple more questions.
Yeah, this was really a movie. Honestly, really was, and I can't remember everything. I should have kept a diary.
Yeah, you should keep a diary. It's not too late, man.
Yeah.
Question from Onika. When considering your new farm, were any members concerned about saturation or competition in markets or other funding?
Great question. Thank you, Onika. Need you kind of people in my life to help me organize my thoughts. Yes. So when considering the new farm, I think one of the values of my presence in this organization is that I was once a member, and I was here from the very beginning. And Maria has stated multiple times how important it is to have farmers on staff, and I am, in fact, a recovering farmer. As farmers, in our organization, one of the core programs of this organization is our collective marketing at the second largest farmers market in Baltimore City. It's long running now, almost 30 years. We have a stand at that market that is essentially operated by the Farm Alliance of Baltimore, but it's owned by our member farms, and so it provides an opportunity, a marketing opportunity for farmers that wouldn't necessarily have that opportunity. You can go to a really, really robust market that gets a ton of traffic, and people are actually spending money at that market. And so this is a great way to sell your wares. And so we saw this opportunity of what we were doing down in South Baltimore with the new farm as a way to kind of prop up that opportunity for the rest of our members. And so I was really strategic about thinking of the things that we could produce that would really support the rest of the farmers in the network without taking some of their market share. And so, hot peppers being a part of that, our initial idea was to provide some of that to community members and folks that were really looking for seasoning peppers, but then also working closely with artisanal food makers, small businesses, Black-owned businesses that wanted to do hot sauce and pepper jams and spice rubs and all that kind of stuff with this very special crop, the fish pepper, which has a long storied history. We can't get into it right now, but if you guys are interested, you should look into it. So that was one thing, but then this farm would provide us enough space to kind of do storage crops and bulk crops that the farms in our network aren't really able to produce because they're very limited on space. So things like potatoes, sweet potatoes, onions, leeks, winter squash, these kind of storage crops that we could then kind of keep in the cooler and kind of roll out over the course of the season, which then at the same time supports those kind of quick turnaround crops that the farms in our network are bringing to market every week. And so we wanted to work in conjunction with them, not in competition. And so I should just say that that collective farm center is one of our programs that we operate, and it's fully a pass-through program. So the funds that the farmers make at the farmers market, we send it right back to them. All the costs, the Farm Alliance assumes all those costs. So I was not concerned about saturation, especially in our particular moment of the pandemic and how much that it affected the labor structure of our farms and really, really impacted their production. And so I really wanted to create an opportunity to kind of lift that up.
Okay, Denzel, we have one more question and then we can kick it to Aria and you, if that's okay. Okay.
Mhm.
Last question from Greta. And this isn't all the questions. We might at the end come back to the other couple of questions that are in here, but I do want you and Aria to have a chance to have the floor for a little while. Have you or do you plan to evaluate trainees as they start and finish and move on from the academy? If so, what are the major takeaways that they have from participating? Where are they going next? That's from Greta.
That's a great question, Greta, and I think that's a perfect segue to open the floor to Aria. So I'll answer your question, and then I'll let Aria share her experience. So we actually had several evaluation methods. So one of the things I failed to say was, as another partnership or collaboration in this program, we work with University of Maryland Ag Extension offices. We have a extension office here in Baltimore City. Our extension agent being Neith Grace Little. So we worked in partnership with her to create a pre and post survey, basically what did you know before you started? What have you learned? And what are you going to take away? As a part of, and so that was one aspect. And then also as a part of the application, we kind of asked folks individually, like, what are your goals? What are your aspirations? What do you ultimately want to do? We didn't necessarily use that as criteria to accept them into the program, but we were kind of interested in what folks' trajectory was. Who actually wanted to be a farmer, who wanted to get access to some land and really get going. So that was one aspect. The second aspect was that we did our own internal survey, one that was solely based around the field days themselves and what impact the field days had on the trainees, but then also the program overall, that the trainees experience in the program overall. And those responses are just coming back now. I actually just read again just the 3 of those responses, and then reminded everybody in the WhatsApp chat to give me some feedback because I need it. So this is a great opportunity for Aria to kind of talk about her experience. Aria is one of our graduating trainees, and she dove in pretty deeply. You was already employed as a AmeriCorps FISTA at one of our member farms at Real Food Farm, but was at every training day, was at all the field days, oftentimes brought her parents, which was amazing. Mom came to class a couple of times. So yeah, welcome, Aria. Thank you for taking some time with us today.
Hi, everyone. Glad to be here. I don't know if there's a specific question for me, but I'm here.
So we just want you to kind of share your experience with the folks of the program. What were your major takeaways, and what are you planning on doing next?
So I hate to out myself, but I actually missed 2 field days. So I appreciate that. But yeah, I think this summer was kind of magical for me because it did coincide with my position at Real Food Farm. So it was kind of a great crash course in farming, because I think it was within the same week or 2 weeks maybe that I found out that I got into the program and also would be working at Real Food. So it's a huge whirlwind and very exciting. And before this, I didn't really have a whole lot of formal education in farming specifically. My undergrad degree was in environmental studies, but besides that, it was more the intersections between the environment and society, and less hands-on agricultural education. So I had some context for food apartheid specifically, and the conditions for what food access looks like in Baltimore City. But I was just super excited. I remember it was the last week of May or something. I was freaking out. Yeah, so I did jump in pretty much head first. I just remember having a lot of readings and a lot of everything that I wanted to just I just wanted to surround myself with all of the things that we were learning. And it was cool to be able to apply some of that while I was at Real Food. And then also with the field days, apply some of what we were reading. Some of our books, I don't know if you already addressed this, but we did some readings from Farming While Black by Leah Penniman, Margaret Gardner, some other readings from Sarah as well. And yeah, I mean, there was a lot of information at the beginning. And it was cool also just to be able to be in community with people who wanted to learn, and then also be in community with farmers. We were encouraged to go to the Farm Alliance meetings, member meetings. And yeah, I think once you start learning about these things, you kind of realize how much more there is to learn. and how like you're never really gonna like grasp all of it, which is kind of, I don't think it's good or bad. It just sort of is the situation. But yeah, and then so we had like the first portion, which was the classroom portion, and then the field days were kind of like the next segment, and then our like internship sort of. And I got to work with a member farm in the city, the Greener Garden, which is they're a really great older couple, and also like get to physically apply a lot of the stuff, because I think that was the cool part about our program, is that it kind of sort of allowed us to explore these different subjects, topics, whole areas of fields in our own ways, but also like in the ways that we learn best. So like there were videos that Denzel sent us on like vermicomposting, and there were like readings obviously, and then like I'm pretty kinesthetic myself, so just being able to do it and learn physically, and like have some sore muscles from like stuff following all day or whatever it might be. Yeah, I think it really becomes like an embodiment of like what you're learning physically. Yeah, and then I don't know, I can't remember all the aspects of this question, but and then I guess for right now, I'm still planning on pursuing like farming education, agricultural education. I don't know exactly what that will look like, but in Baltimore, the growing season is pretty much over. The first frost was last week, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, and so I know that they're like, for example, the blues, Lauren and Levette Blue, they both, they're growing all year round pretty much, because they have a series of hoop houses. So I've talked to them a little bit about like, continuing even past when Black Butterfly is over, to maybe just like help them out and learn more with them. But because she said that they grow pretty much year round. But also just trying to find opportunities to learn new things in general. So,
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so I just wanted to address Nina's question real quick. Yeah, so to answer your question, yes. So we really designed the program so that people could work and learn at the same time. I think Aria's situation is ideal in that you could work on a farm and kind of in real time get all of this back information, and so in a lot of ways matches kind of this traditional or historical aspect of that journey through farming, where you learn by doing, but then there's also this kind of educational element, whether it's in the classroom or through reading or whatever, because there's so many pieces to understand and learn, to be a food producer, but then also to be a food marketer, to be a sustainable farmer, and then kind of navigating policy and city government and neighborhoods, and in the work of doing it within the city context, which is just it's very different. So yeah, so we wanted folks to have some time on the farm, and then we essentially wanted to make it so that yes, you could still work at the same time, because like I said in the chat, it's like $2,000 ain't gonna pay nobody's bills. So there's no way that you can just drop what you're doing and say, oh, I'm in this 6-month long program to learn how to be a farmer, and unless you're independently wealthy. So
actually, can I jump in on that point, Denzel,
yeah.
please? Because it is the case that some programs around the country and around this region specifically are structured in that way, where
Yes.
the program happens when it happens, and participants trainees are expected to show up according to that schedule. I think the reason we embedded accessibility in this way into the structure of our program goes back to the feasibility study and those listening sessions that we did with community residents who in fact told us that they would not attend a program and could not attend a program that did not take their regular work schedules into account. And there were other sorts of actual wraparound services that we were asked to provide as part of this program as well. And that were actually things we were not necessarily able to always build into our grant. So in many ways, while the SARE grant, research and education grant, feels very large and very comprehensive, we had to cut some serious elements from it because we had to recognize that we couldn't be all things for all prospective participants, and that the way we structure this will in fact mean that there are some residents who will not be able to access our program. So we just have to live with that. One thing we were able to build in was transportation services. So, you know, even though our first cohort did not need it, there is money in the second cohort to provide transportation for folks.
Yeah. Thank you. That is.
But if somebody gives us a grant to provide childcare, that would be amazing.
Yeah, we definitely had some babies in class a couple of times, which is cool. I'm good with that. I got 5 babies of my own, so it's all good. But yes, childcare, childcare would be awesome. Well, I don't want to hold Aria too much longer. If guys have a question for the great Aria, please feel free to ask it. I know she's at work. It's very gracious to take time from work to pop in and share about her experience with the program. You want to tell a quick story, Aria? What's your most memorable moment this year?
I heard you talking about that class where we dissected our community. I don't want to say issues, but yeah, like our struggles with the community. And that class was definitely memorable just because I feel like because of our time crunch, because like we were really only meeting like once a week for our in-person classes, we were pretty much focusing on the subjects of our readings and, any other questions and stuff. But that class, we were just like, no, we need to address this and we're going to figure out what to do. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I personally, because I'm just a nerd, I loved the in-person classes because I feel like my brain was able to like absorb the information that I was reading in the past week. And also like we could talk about it and, in certain cases we could like apply it to a real life scenario. But I don't know. There's so many stories. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I was thinking about the small. I forgot about this one. Was our small tools workshop out at Purple Mountain Organics.
Yeah, that was a great one. That one was like pretty I don't know, life changing, I guess, because I brought my parents to that one as well. And he is a naturopath as well as a farmer and probably 5 other titles also. And yeah, he was talking about like mindfulness with your tool usage and how paying attention to, the alignment of your body and the way that you're using the tools and how present your mind is in the moment all affect, the safety that you're using the tools or the way that how safe you're using the tools. Yeah, and so we went home and like, yeah, the drive home was like, I don't know, 40 minutes an hour. And we were just talking about it the whole time. And yeah, I mean, it was just a great moment because I think like I'm someone who likes to integrate multiple fields of knowledge or of learning. And yeah, it was a great like crossroads of health and food and farming, all of it. It's pretty great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Anybody else have any other questions for Aria?
Glad to be here. So I'll start heading out then. Y'all
All
have
right.
a good rest of the conference.
Thank you, Aria. Appreciate
Sure
you.
Sorry.
thing. Sure thing.
Yeah, and so I think I mean we covered most of it. If you guys have some questions, I want to say the last 15 minutes or so for questions. Yes, definitely congrats to Aria and the other trainees. But yeah, I want to open it up for questions. There's lots of little bits of information I'm sure that I skipped over, so I just want to fill in the blanks as needed.
Denzel, I have a question for you. Do you think had you known how massively challenging this would be to set up, that you would have dove into it in your first year on the job?
I probably wouldn't have dove in my first year. I think we spent a lot of time talking about how massive this was going to be, and it's like building a farm is one thing. Well, starting a new job, number one, a new job that previously didn't exist, and then getting said job, and then getting smacked with a global pandemic is still a little head spinning. So that was the first thing. So I didn't even really feel like I was ready for my job yet. And then we were like, oh, we're gonna build a new farm, and I was like, oh, great, fantastic, that's really what I want to do. And then we're like, and we're gonna create this training program all at the same time. So yeah, it was I'm still kind of spinning. And then this summer for me, just like family wise, was challenging anyways. So I probably would have waited, but I think we did it. You and the rest of the staff were incredibly encouraging and supportive. And I know for a fact that I could not have done it without you all. But in short, my answer would be no. I wouldn't have done it the first year. I would have waited a little bit. I would have waited to raise a little bit more money so that we could have rolled out the farm fully. It's like there's never an opportunity as a farmer where you just get like a pot of money. And they're like, yeah, you just do what you want. Just here's the money for you to build a farm. It's like my first 2 farming experiences weren't like that. You just kind of scrape funds together to kind of do your thing. So then that happening at the same time of us like kind of rolling out this programming, and as Maria said, kind of putting the screws in as we had left the tarmac, and then remembering like, oh damn, we ain't put the landing gear on yet, and then being in the middle of the air, put the landing gear on. It was a lot. It's a lot. So I've learned a lot, and for cohort 2, I'll be ready.
Yeah. Onika, I really love your comment in the chat there. It's about shifts in timeline. I agree. It's also about just, and I will say that the folks at Northeast SARE have been phenomenal. Like they've been really, really flexible with us. Like when it turned out that the folks that we had intended to contract as mentor farmers from within our network were themselves hit so hard by the pandemic that they could not fulfill those obligations. They gave us the freedom to shift around and create a staff position instead. So I just think, yes, we need more of that kind of flexibility, but it's also the case that that I think just having experienced farmers such as Denzel that are able to stand up a program like this and start it so that it's not just like a nonprofit education person with only that background is key. So like somebody with area expertise is just really key. Subject area expertise in this is just really, really priceless, having Denzel on board to do this. And so I don't know if we could have, I mean, honestly, you know, I have a lot more confidence in us as a team now than I did in the beginning. I do think that we've worked through some seriously difficult stuff together. But it was a little scary.
Yeah.
For a while.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, I think, you know, to Mario's point, kind of the big thing, the biggest thing for me working in concert with her is that like I like to write. I'm fine with writing. I used to teach writing, but to have to sit down and like ask for money via writing really makes my ears hurt. And so, you know, so the most massive support that Maria has provided for this is like, you know, that like whatever I say somehow ends up magically, beautifully typed on some email or some grant application. I'm like, where'd you get that from? She's like, that's what you said. I'm like, for real? I said that? She was like, yeah. So it's in paper and it just happens. And then I don't have to, I haven't been burdened with that nonprofit task of like asking for money, because that's, you know, I really, really struggle there. You know, I just kind of keep my mouth shut and my head down. It's like, it don't really work like that. So that's part of one of the thing that I'm learning, but it's like, she does that very well. She's like, oh, you said so-and-so, so-and-so. And I'll see it in some title somewhere, you know, 3 months later. I'm like, how did you remember that? Where'd that come from? She's like, oh, you said it. You said it. So she's a fantastic note taker, fantastic writer. You know, all I have to do is read through it, be like, oh, you know, you just need to change this, that, or the third, and then and it just happens. So we've been working really well as a team, and it's been also fantastic just to grow our team. So she mentioned the production assistant. We were able to shift funds around to kind of put somebody in to just do the work of farming and not, you know, and not really have to be bothered with kind of the controls, you know, but I could really kind of just execute the vision by saying, hey, we need 500-foot long rows with rows or beds with drip tape and biodegradable plastic mulch on them. And I know how to do that. I would prefer to do that, but I didn't have the time to do that. And so I could ask our production assistant to do it, and it just magically get done. Yeah. So Andy was amazing. You know, like I need prices on a storage unit for us to put on the farm so we can store the tools. And then, you know, and then I'd have an array of storage containers to choose from. And it's like that work just kind of came out of my purview and just kind of happened. And then we have a program coordinator who is absolutely tremendous. She's also an art student, or an artist, not an art student, an artist. And like, you know, design the flyers, design the signs. Like, I could never do that. I was struggling just today trying to pull a PowerPoint presentation together with some pictures while I'm, you know, giving Robitussin to my kids. It's too, I mean, it's crazy. So, you know, I could not have done it without this team, for sure. I mean, no way it wouldn't happen. And no, we wouldn't do it like this again, for sure. But I mean, but it worked. So, you know, I kind of feel like we won for 2021. And definitely shout out to Allison Warman and Andy Cizindre. Sorry, that was long-winded answer, but
that's fine. We just have one more question that I think we have time to take, and then I'm going to put both of our contact information in the chat, as well as a little plug right now that I can share with all of you, which is that we are hiring at the Farm Alliance of Baltimore, and we would really appreciate, any of you spreading the word that we need a finance and administrative manager. We also do pay our interns, and we will be looking for interns come next summer again, because we will all cry when our current amazing intern Ellie leaves us, but that will happen one day. So I'm pasting into the chat now our page for that, if you guys wouldn't mind spreading the word. Okay, the last question we have, Denzel, is how did you market this program to get such a large amount of applicants? Was it all through your association with the Farm Alliance already? That's from Shannon.
Good question, Shannon. Thank you. How do we market this program? So we have a monthly newsletter that goes out. We have a social media presence, Facebook and Instagram. So we advertise both there. We printed up a bundle of recruitment flyers. I put them in, kind of the hot spots, barbershops, hair salon, bookstores, juice bars, coffee shops. So we just kind of went around and flyered the city. I did a couple of radio spots, advertising and talking about the program. That was fun. And then it was kind of within our network. I mean, I think one of the most powerful things about this particular agricultural region, and folks that have been in and around Baltimore would attest to, is that it's very, very tight knit. Folks talk with each other and convene and communicate a lot. The farming community here in the city is just as vibrant and strongly connected to folks that are outside of the city. And as a matter of fact, myself included, kind of started in the city and then kind of expanded out to the county onto larger space. And so folks are really connected. And so, we just kind of put the word out and it spread like wildfire. And so, I can't, honestly, I was shocked. We were shocked at 43 applications, and then only having 10 slots. It was tough to have to narrow it down to just so few people. So that was really encouraging to know that this was something that folks really, really, really wanted. It was really nice. Yeah, so that's it. I think we're at time. I appreciate everybody's time and attention. I appreciate your questions and patience. We are the Farm Alliance of Baltimore. I'm just finishing up our first year of the Black Butterfly Urban Farmer Academy here in Baltimore City. And feel free to go to our Instagram or website and to stay connected with us and check on our progress. And we appreciate your encouragement and prayers and support. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.